For this first ReSynthesizer patch of the week, let's have a general talk about ReSynthesizin. We mentioned in the intro video, and of course also the manual, that the morphogene recreates sounds literally, while the Spectraphon reimagines them figuratively. Even after we start wading into a lot of technical details, which we will be doing, this is a good basic concept to keep in mind. It might even be one of the core concepts of this ReSynthesizer. Let's start from an even more basic version of the basic Resynthesis patch from the manual. We mult the morphogene's outputs to the DXG, and also one side of it to the Spectraphon inputs. We'll take the even and odd outputs and mix them slightly panned in the X-pan. And we'll take the X-pan outputs and patch them to the other DXG channel. And then take the result to the monitor via the CV bus. Now we can use the two channels of the DXG to set the relative levels of the morphogene and Spectraphon, as well as mildly filtering any harsh upper frequencies as we see fit. Now with both the morphogene and Spectraphon, the pitch will operate a little differently from what you might expect with a standard oscillator. The morphogene's vari-speed sets the relative pitch of whatever reel it is playing. The reel itself could contain any number of pitches. So the same setting of vari-speed may result in a different pitch at the output depending on the content and the other settings. The Spectraphon, and we're talking today about SAM mode, spectral amplitude modulation, which is the core function of the module. The Spectraphon's pitch control sets the core pitch of its oscillator. Everything you hear at the output will be harmonic multiples of that core pitch. But notably, it's possible for the core pitch itself not to be present at the output. This is one of the reasons that it might seem as though what Spectraphon is doing is something like recording and playback as done with the morphogene. The harmonic motion can sound like a change in pitch, but in fact it is analyzing and resynthesizing always in relation to that core frequency, as a harmonic of that core frequency. So for example, as the pitch output of the morphogene goes up, the result at Spectraphon's outputs is that we hear higher harmonics. Let's also hear how the setting of Spectraphon's slide affects the output. Slide is setting the frequency that Spectraphon listens for. Whatever sound it hears at that frequency, it will interpret to be the fundamental frequency, while higher frequency components are interpreted as upper harmonics of that fundamental. These harmonics will then be resynthesized, starting with the fundamental set by the pitch knob. So when we turn slide, we hear an upward or downward shift in the series of harmonics that are being resynthesized. When we turn pitch, we hear an upward or downward shift in the entire output, while the harmonic structure remains the same, just moving up and down. Let's also monitor the sine output from this side of Spectraphon so that we can hear the core frequency directly. If we compare this sine to the even and odd outputs, we can hear how it's possible for the resynthesized outputs to contain basically none of the core frequency. Sounds that consist entirely of upper harmonics are not common in nature and can sound extraordinarily shrill if we set the core frequency higher. But an upside to resynthesizing larger and upper harmonics is that as the harmonic series continues upward, the frequencies sound closer together to our ears. So with a lower pitch setting and fed with material that changes pitch over time, it can almost create the illusion that the Spectraphone's output is changing pitch to match, even though it's still consisting entirely of harmonics of the same fundamental. Within the context of the resynthesizer, we have many opportunities to narrow or widen the spectrum of sound that is being resynthesized. For example, before the Spectraphone's input, we could patch the morphogene through the Q-Pass to high-pass or band-pass filter it. This will let us select a particular set of frequencies that are the only ones that make it in. Let's take a step back and look at all the variables here. 1. Varispeed, setting the overall pitch of the sound being resynthesized. 2. Morphogene slide, selecting from different parts of the sound, which in this case play at different pitches. 3. Allowing a particular set of frequencies through with the Q-Pass. 4. Selecting which frequency to listen for with the Spectraphon slide. 5. Repitching the resynthesized result with Spectraphon pitch. That's 5 different steps from original sound to audible resynthesis, all of which occur simultaneously, and each of which affects what we ultimately hear. Any modulation of any of these things will result in a different sound at the output. This malleability means that we can take basically any number of approaches to resynthesizing any given sound. And aside from the Spectraphone's pitch, we'll also find these decisions inscribed on any array we create thereby. Let's create a few. Shift array to create an array. Shift shift to shift to the next slot. These arrays are each created from the same source material. And we're modulating and sequencing them with the same shape for math. But what happens if we modulate them with different shapes? That'll have to wait for next time. Or hey, if you have a Spectraphon, try it out yourself and share your experiences in the comments. We'll see you soon for another ReSynthesizer Patch of the Week. Thanks for watching and happy patching.